Aloha, I'm Belinda Farrell, and I'm so honored to be here today to introduce you or to reinforce perhaps some ancient Hawaiian teachings that I've learned and have practiced for the last 30 years. And it's brought me in tremendous peace, tremendous just freedom from fear, I guess, is the main thing that it brings me as I practice it every day. And I'm just so excited that I'll get to share that with you. My healing journey started in my 40s, and I was a student of Anthony Robbins. I did 18 fire walks with him over a period of 5 years, and that brought me to overcome fear in a major way, because when you walk on 2,000 degrees of hot coals, you're definitely not in fear. And what it did was it created a metaphor for my life that said, if I can walk on these coals, what else would I like to do? And I really wanted to drive a race car. So I learned how to do that, and it had a 8-year career as a precision stunt driver when I was in my 40s. But I was still afraid of so many things. And I got into hypnosis, and I wanted to find out deeply what created the fear, especially of water. And so I went to Hawaii, and I started to learn about the ancient Hawaiian healing called huna, and it means secret. And at the basis of this huna is forgiveness. And I started to practice this forgiveness process, and I started to feel better. The lightness came back to me. There was no more darkness. And it was so simple because I was erasing the perceptions that I had with the things that happened to me in the past. And it was just incredible the way that it just changed things around. My back was compromised very shortly after I started learning about the huna. And I was studying it for about 3 years when I collapsed from herniated discs and nerve damage. And I couldn't do my jobs anymore, modeling, film, couldn't do anything because I couldn't stand, sit. And the doctors told me that if I if I didn't have surgery, that I wouldn't walk again. But I had been learning all of this healing paradigm, and I thought, okay, physician, heal thyself. And so that's what I did. I practiced going inside and cutting cords. And cutting cords means that I have a perception of something inside of myself, and I'm looking at what I'm projecting out into the world. And let's say the pandemic is out there now. And so I have a certain feeling, a certain way of looking at that pandemic, and I want to erase it and move to a higher level with it. So I will say to myself, I'm sorry, I love you, I forgive you, thank you. I'm doing this with my own higher self. But as I do this, the perceptions that I have with that pandemic are erased. And all of a sudden, there is nothing there but a void, so that I can lift myself up to a higher level. The thought of the pandemic can move to a higher level as well. And I feel better about it. I move out of the fear and the low density that I was once involved with. When you put people down on a stage, you breathe down on them, and then you offer the forgiveness, which is, I'm sorry, I love you, I forgive you, thank you. Take a cutting instrument and you can spin it around you, and then use your hand to watch them float away. You'll meet with them at a higher level, but then it'll be doing something different with your thoughts. As you meet at a higher level, you'll create something at a higher level to get through the issues that you have between you. There's a gentleman called Dr. E. Hiliakalalen, and he was a very famous spiritual leader who was hired to go to a hospital in Hawaii, a large hospital for the mentally insane. And he was chosen to take over that hospital where nobody really could stay and work. People were leaving all the time because it was so unpleasant to be there. And he never saw a patient. All he would do was be to ask for the file to come in, and he would go inside himself and began doing the cleansing process called ho'oponopono to clean, to make right. And he would go in and clean that part of himself that was that patient. And gradually they all started getting better. He would even do the ho'oponopono on the walls, on the chairs, anything that was a part of that hospital he felt had a soul. And so as the soul of that hospital healed, it closed down. And the nurses were interviewed for a special book by Joe Vitale called Zero Limits, which talks about how this all happened, how the nurses saw what was happening, and they were amazed. It was like a miracle for them, because how can you heal somebody by not even looking at them in the room? That's why this Ho'oponopono is so effective, and how you can heal and forgive the unforgivable. Let's say something terrible happens to you, and terrible things have happened to all of us. And you have a perception, you have some kind of judgment around that. And what that does is it wraps a cord around you and that incident that happened. So what you're forgiving is the way you're looking at that. You're not forgiving the person who did it to you, but in forgiving the cause or the way you thought it should be, it's moving you and that person to a higher level to deal with the issues that you have between you. And healing does occur. So that's the way I healed my back, is I had some dark stuff that was lodged in the lower part of my back, and I allowed it to come up through breathing, the deep ha breath, which is up to the top of your head, and then an exhale of ha as you breathe out. And that gave permission for my unconscious mind to open the door and open the box, the Pandora's box of whatever was in there that I have not been able to address. So as it did that, I was able to see what had been kind of a prisoner at the lower part of my back, which was a tiny fetus. And that fetus just really didn't get a chance to express herself or to grow. She needed to have a lot of love. And when that fetus came up and was thrown out into the universe, it was almost like a piece of garbage being tossed away. I could feel that it was just a lack of feeling loved and a lack of worthiness of being loved. But these hands came down and lifted me up. And I felt love at a very, very deep level. And I was able to wake up in a pool of sweat and be very inquisitive about my birth again. So I talked to my mother, and she finally admitted that she and my father had taken me to several abortion clinics. And that's what was ingrained in the bottom of my back, is that I was not wanted. And so I felt wanted after that, because I got a spiritual connection from going deep inside and feeling that level of safety when the hands came down and lifted me up. and placed me in a safe place. So all of the thoughts of trying to get attention so that my father would come back and claim me were gone. I felt like I didn't have to work so hard to feel worthy to be loved. It was an amazing turnover. And then at the very deep level, I was able to find out what I had been saying to myself so that the lower back collapsed. And I had been saying I was not worthy to be free. I was not worthy to stand up for myself. And then that changed. I decided that I wanted to climb trees again. And you have to have a strong back to climb trees. And so I started to say, thank you for regenerating. Whatever you say to yourself is instrumental in what your unconscious mind is doing for you. So when you say, every day in every way I'm getting better and better, that's a real shot in the arm for your body to regenerate. And so that's what I did. I kept saying, I'm going to be climbing trees. Thank you for regenerating. I know that I am worthy to receive, and I can stand up for myself. And all of those things really helped to accelerate the healing of my back. So the next day after doing all of this, I jumped out of bed and I was completely healed. I went to my doctor to get an x-ray, and he was amazed to see that I had a totally aligned spine, and the scoliosis that I had been born with was gone. I mean, I didn't even ask for that. I just wanted to climb trees again. So doing the Ho'oponopono is absolutely paramount to just cleaning yourself on the inside. I mean, think about it. You go to the store, you buy toothpaste, you buy all of these cosmetics to, we all do that to make sure that we look good on the outside. But what's going on the inside? What are you saying to yourself? You need to clean and neutralize all of the thoughts that are going on the inside. And when you do that daily, it's like brushing your teeth and you're cleaning the plaque of your soul on the inside. And that's how you can forgive the unforgivable, because things are going to happen to you. I lost my son, and he could not, it's hard to even talk about it. He could not go inside and do the work of healing that would be required to really clean some of the past. And he had surgeries that were not successful, to say the least. And so he was in a lot of pain and dependent on medicines and drugs to keep him going. And eventually those drugs took his life. And grief is something that nobody can tell you how to grieve. It just comes and goes in waves. I feel that he's with me. He's learned so much from his transition. I feel that, again, I was privileged to have him for the 30 years that I did have him. And I know we'll meet again. I know we'll meet again with all our friends and with all our family and our animals, and I believe that wholeheartedly. But in the meantime, we have to live on this earth and doing whatever healing that we can do to make our lives easier and to help others. I think that's, and more fun. I love to have fun. I love to play tennis, love to rollerblade. I used to love to ski. But it's just, again, what are you saying to yourself as you go through a day? People talk to themselves all the time, so why not inject something consciously? And that would be those 4 phrases. I'm sorry, I love you, I forgive you, and thank you. That's all you have to do. And you don't even have to know why you're saying that. You could feel very sad someday. Something could come up because your unconscious mind is trying to clear all this stuff out so it can run your body better. Because we're a laboratory inside this body, a total laboratory. We're making Valium, we're making a drug called interleukin 2, which is the real happiness joy drug. If you had to buy that drug on the market for cancer, it would be over $20,000. It's according to Deepak Chopra. And your body makes that when you go and get excited about, maybe if you like roller coasters or whatever, if you go to Disneyland or you're just full of excitement and energy, just like a child, you're making millions and millions of dollars of interleukin 2. Think about it. I mean, that is really exciting. So that's why laughter and fun are so important to interject into your life every day in every way. And so your body can become filled with interleukin 2. So think of the opposite. If you get angry, your unconscious mind creates a chemical that bruises your heart muscle. The leading cause of death in this country is heart attacks, where the heart is just torn from all the anger that it's been able to possess. So you want to be aware of your vocabulary, aware of what you're spending. So instead of being angry, maybe you could be a teens annoyed. You're not spending so much money of your healing energy and creating something that's more of a garden inside of you. I don't say I have all the answers. I mean, Huna was something that was practiced before 750 AD, when there was a balance system on this earth. But there was, again, going to be an upset of a patriarchal system to come in and upset that balance. And in the 1800s, the missionaries came and they saw the kahunas doing all these amazing healings, and they thought that was superstitious and evil. So they banned it. They arrested kahunas, and it was illegal to practice any of these healing methods and to practice chanting or doing any hula. That was gone. It wasn't until 1957, 1997, that's when it was, that the Religious Freedom Act came aboard, and we were free to practice this again, or I would have been arrested for teaching the Huna, which I've been doing for almost 30 years. That's just incredible to hear. When the missionaries came, they were reading from a book about God. And so the Hawaiians would talk to one another and say, they're not really talking to God because they're not breathing. So they invented this word called hauli, which means without breath. The only way for them to connect to the higher self or to God was to take a deep ha breath to the top of the head. And when you do that, then you're inviting your own higher self to come inside you. And the missionaries weren't doing that, so they called them haulis, which are people without breath. And to this day, when you go to Hawaii, you're referred to, if you're a white person, as a haole. So we don't want to be haulis. We want to be with breath. Deep conscious breath. And out through the mouth. I swim with the wild spinner dolphins in Hawaii. I finally got over my fear. The dolphins are the ones that taught me in the dream time to be feeling nurtured by the water, feeling nurtured by the mother. And they teach me also to remember to consciously breathe, because they are conscious breathers. They have to come up for air every 7 minutes or else they'll drown. So we have to not die a spiritual death, and do a conscious breath all the way to the top of the head. And then out, exhaling. And by doing that, we connect with our own higher self. We invite the higher self to come in, and the higher self is what heals our body. That's what healed my back. So I am totally, totally immersed in thankful and gratefulness to my higher self, and to breathing, and to dolphins, and to all kinds of spiritual guides and angels that come into our lives and assist us. But remember, we have free will, so we can either accept or deny these instances of coming in. So there might be a time when you don't want to accept that, but it's always your choice. It's always your choice. Huna is for people who want to do self-healing, because you are really accepting 100% responsibility for whatever happens to you in your life. If you accept that responsibility, then you're also at cause to uncreate it. And so there's no blame, there's no pointing your finger, because whatever is inside of you projects out into the world. So if you want to see beauty, you need to beautify yourself on the inside. If you see ugliness and hatred out there, then clean yourself on the inside, because it's a projection of that out into the world. I have a CD called Chant and Forgiveness, and that will take you through the forgiveness process. It's available on my website, which is Huna Healing, Huna healing.com. It's been out for about 25 years all over the world, and has helped many people to understand how to cut their cords and how to create a simpler, more fun life for themselves in the present time. How do you get to the present time? You have to clean up the past. That's right. I also have a book called Find Your Friggin' Joy that I was inspired to write probably 6 years ago. And it does outline everything about cutting cords, about healing, and just finding your friggin' joy. That's one of the most incredible gifts we have, is our gift of laughter. And I want to share that with you, because it's what makes everything right again, making right, the Ho'oponopono. So if you want to get in touch with me, my website is www.hunahealing.com. It has a list of all of my CDs. I have 3 CDs of chanting, and my book is there. It's also available on Amazon, and I would love to be able to have a session with you if that is your desire. I do phone sessions, taking people through the process of forgiveness with themselves. It would be an honor to do that with you. So thank you so much. Hope I haven't rambled on too much, but I love you. I honor you. And if you're listening to this broadcast, there's a reason that we're connected. So many thanks, aloha, and mahalo.